Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mary Queen of Heaven for the second in a series of three presentations titled The Spirituality of Addiction. I'm very pleased to see a nice group of people here in church tonight. Some new. Thank you, some new people for coming. Some of the old are here. Thank you for coming. And I'd like to certainly welcome the people at home. Glad to have you here, even though you're at a distance. You're nice and comfortable in your chairs at home and your recliners and all that, and have a nice beverage on hand. We don't really do that here in church. Could spill it on something, and that wouldn't be a good idea. I got a lid on mine, so that's not going anywhere. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us tonight for our second version. And apparently there were people who were with us live last week, but also some who tuned in and watched it. Another group, even just as large as the group that tuned in. So we had 25 people live last week, and then another group as big, apparently, that watched it later. So we're really happy about that. Thank you for tuning in. And tell your friends about it, because they can catch up on the old episodes on the parish website. Also, we have my new is it a web page or website, Bill? Website. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was a web page. But I'm at www.james, the letter E, a horizontal dash, highereducation.com. So you can tune into that website and get more information. And I appreciate all the work Bill did on, thank you, Bill, for putting all that together. I don't think I could find a doggone thing myself. Please. Oh, and then the handouts for tonight, for those of you that aren't able to be here, there's the handouts on the website are at handout 91422, as in 9/14/22, which is today's date. So, and then all the documents we'll use tonight are there. So we don't have to deliver them to your house by carrier pigeon or by mail or FedEx. It's coming to you through the airways. And I'd like to ask you to do one other thing while you're waiting, and maybe Deacon Larry can zoom in on this, or maybe he doesn't have to. This is going to be used later in something I want to do, so the people in the pews have a copy already, but you need to take the time to jot this down on a piece of paper at home, and everybody that's watching at home needs their own special copy. So finished files are the result of years of scientific study combined with the experience of many years. My printing is not the greatest. So let me say it again. Finished files are the result of years of scientific study combined with the experience of many years. So what you want to do is jot that down, and we'll be using that later. And I hope that the people that came tonight, I talked about bringing a writing surface and a pen or a writing implement. So please, if you would, hopefully you brought that with you. And there's another lady that just walked in. If you would take a packet and a single page to her, I'd really appreciate it. Maybe I should give you another one just in case somebody else walks in. Yeah, there you go. Here, take a bunch. Go right ahead. He's the main man. He's come all the way from Westchester, or not, Mason, Ohio? Somewhere up there, anyway, up there in the hinterlands, somewhere up in that area there. So I'd like to propose that we begin with a prayer, and let's just bow our heads for a moment and place ourselves in the presence of the Lord, who definitely is here with us in the church, in the tabernacle. Lord, we are grateful for this chance to be together, to study something that has to do with our spirituality and religious life, that has to do with the struggles we've been involved in, maybe in our own, or people in our own families, or people in the past in our lives that have meant a lot to us, and we've watched them struggle through these kinds of things, dealing with alcohol or other drugs, or other kinds of addictions. So we come before you humbly and seek your care and protection for those that are currently involved, please help them to come to their senses and return back to their loving family like the prodigal son did, and help their family to meet them lovingly with open arms, and in that loving embrace, help them to realize that they're forgiven. Amen. And I'd like to propose an opening prayer because the enemy is deeply involved in this whole process. Let's start with the St. Michael prayer. Many times we end Mass with it. Let's start our evening with the St. Michael prayer. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. And how about the serenity prayer? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And as we dedicate ourselves to the Blessed Virgin Mary, who is the patron saint of this church, hail, Holy Queen, Mother of mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the Blessed Virgin Mary. Clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary, pray for us, O Holy Mother of God, that we may be made worthy the promises of Christ. Amen. I'd like to begin with a brief review of last week, especially for those who may not have been here or might not have been able to tune in last week. So briefly, what I described last week is that this, when I talk about the spirituality of addiction, is I made the distinction between religion and spirituality, and that religion has to do with organized groups of people around certain doctrines. Spirituality has to do with our personal relationship with Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. There's some people who are deeply religious, but don't want much to do to organize and don't have a very deep spirituality. There's other people who are deeply spiritual, but don't want a lot to do with organized religion. I think the best kind of walk with God is for both, to have that sensitivity and awareness of the religious truths and teachings of our church, but also that personal relationship with our Lord and Savior. So I was basically talking about that last week and how important it is to make sure that we have that relationship, that deep relationship with the Lord is a very important part of recovery. The process of addiction, I talked last week about the Johnson feeling bar. So, and that was where we went from -5 to -4 to -3, 2, 1, 0, and then +1, +2, +3, +4, and +5. Now, over here at -5, you have what's called possible deep depression or suicidality. 0 is normal, and +5 is ecstatic, ecstasy. Now, suppose I told you that I wanted you to come here, I gave you 30 days. The last 30 days, I asked you to keep track of your emotions, and you could rate yourself from 1 to 10 on any given day. Some of you would look like a nice flowing river. Others would look like the stock market. Others, like me, might be down low at the bottom. I fight depression sometimes, but who knows? Nobody's going to be the same. But what people discover is that they use chemicals, they can change how they feel. And that's how people get hooked into it. And they start experimenting, and they say, wow, this little bit helps, I feel better. And it's no after effects. So they say logically, if a little bit is good, maybe more is even better. So they go and get more. Well, the problem is, as they get more and more and more, the side effects at the end are not so good. That's called a hangover. Nobody likes that. You get nauseous, you get a headache, sensitivity to light and sound, irritability, all kinds of other things that we don't want to talk about in church. But anyway, and then there's guilt and shame and embarrassment and low self-esteem that goes along with that, and it can be pretty doggone destructive. Now that is what is summarized in, I did something with that guy's book. Where is it? Don't tell me I left it at home. Vernon Johnson. Where did I put Johnson's book? It's got to be here somewhere. Anybody see Johnson's book? Oh, here it is, Vernon Johnson. I'll Quit Tomorrow. There it is. That's a summary of this guy's book. Now, some of these might be out of print, but you can probably find them in your library. When I first got in the field, there's 3 books that I read while I was getting ready to interview for my position as a drug counselor. Excuse me. This book was one that was recommended. I'll Quit Tomorrow by Vernon Johnson. Loosening the Grip is another that I was encouraged to read, which is quite enjoyable to read. There's some humor in it. It's by Gene Kinney, Kinney. Loosening the Grip. This is 8th edition, so it's probably still out there. I'll Quit Tomorrow, which is a famous saying by people that are messed around with stuff. And another one called Under the Influence. I got this one in paperback. Of course, the other one is too. And this one is by Dr. James Millam, M-I-L-A-M, and Catherine Ketchum, K-E-T-C-H-A-M. And those are the authors of those 3 books that are very good. By the way, it might be good to talk about what's here on the desk. This is the AA Bible. It's the big book. It's called the AA Bible. This is one of the larger versions. In fact, I think, yes, it's for the elderly. It's a large print volume. Yeah, that's why it's bigger. So anyway, if you're like me, sometimes that's easier on the eyes. Right, Mary? So, and she's easy on the eyes too. Anyway, okay. I get some extra points for saying that, hopefully. Okay. And then this is the 12 steps of the 12 traditions, which is some commentary on the 12 steps and the 12 traditions of AA. So these are some very good things to know about. I didn't explain all these books last time. This is what's called a where and when. Where and when tells you where and when the meetings are for AA. Now this is the smaller pocket-sized version, but a friend of mine and I were over in Cincinnati, went over to Oak Street, which is the central location for Cincinnati, and they got one for Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky central offices, and it's this size. And it cost me about $1.25. I got this one for free, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, wouldn't you know Cincinnati would be more expensive than us nice people in Kentucky? Oops, this is going to be on video. Anyway, that's the August 2022, pretty well up-to-date version on where the meetings are. And you can get those at any meeting house. And all you have to do is look in your phone book under, there's AA and then there's AAA. So you look right above AAA in your phone book, and that'll be AA, probably. And you can go any city, anywhere and do that, and you'll find out. You can call the number and find out where there's a meeting. If you're visiting another place and you need to go to a meeting, there you go. So as far as reviewing last time, I talked about trying to diagnose the problem, why it's a problem. This was the Johnson feeling bar, which I talked about Vernon Johnson. And then I talked about THIQs, the brain chemistry, and how an alcoholic person who's an alcoholic processes alcohol different than other people do. A person that's diabetic, and I'm diabetic type 2, processes sugar different than other people do. And I might want to eat that chocolate cake like a non-diabetic, but guess what? I'm not a non-diabetic, and my body's going to process that the way it wants to. And there's not a thing on this earth I can do to change that. The same way for an alcoholic. An alcoholic wants to take a drink and drink like a normal person, and guess what? They don't have that body of a normal person. Biochemistry-wise, they don't have that. So they can't drink the alcohol like a non-alcoholic. And the body's going to process it differently. And the brain changes some of the alcohol to what's called tetrahydroisoquinolines, which produce a craving for alcohol like a heroin addict would crave heroin. What's a heroin addict willing to do to get their next fix? Anything. You got it right, class. Very good. Way to go. Okay, so you're learning. Let's see. So that's a pretty quick review of last week. I'd like to start off by telling you a little story. There's an ancient story. Actually, this is it's Greek, and the snake in this story is actually a viper of some sort, or an asp or something. But I'm just going to make it a normal present-day Kentucky hillbilly kind of story, okay? And there's a man walking, it's cold out, it's very cold, it's freezing out, snow is falling, there's ice on the ground. He's walking home and he's, real cold, just shivering. And kind of like some of us were last night when it went down into the 50s, right? Anyway, kind of a surprise. So, who turned the heat on last night? Anybody? Oh, a bunch of brave souls, way to go. You toughed it out. Huh? You got 4 dogs? You don't have a 3-dog night, you have a 4-dog night. Wow. Okay. Anyway, that's a musical reference that some of you might not be aware of. Okay, so anyway, this guy's walking home in the cold, and he steps over this stick on the bridge, and he hears a noise, and he hears a, psst, hey buddy. And he looks around, he doesn't see anything but that stick on the bridge. So he starts walking and says, psst, hey buddy. He looks back and it's not a stick, that's a snake, and it's frozen to the bridge. So he looks back and he says, is that you talking to me? He says, yeah. He says, I'm freezing to death down here, help me out. He says, I'm not touching you, you're a poisonous snake, you'll bite me and I'll die. He says, no I won't, I promise, I won't hurt you. Please pick me up. He says, oh, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be crazy. I'm not gonna do that. Snake says, come on man, I promise I won't hurt you. The guy finally gives in. So he picks the snake up and wraps it around his neck and puts his coat over the top of it. And the snake starts thawing out, feeling kind of snaky. And all of a sudden he rears up and bites the guy in the neck. Now the guy's laying on the bridge dying. And he's saying, hey, I thought you said you wouldn't hurt me. The snake says, I'm a snake, that's what snakes do. Sorry about your luck. So that's kind of an old story told in the areas. A buddy of mine, had his counseling office right next to mine at Claremont Recovery Center, named Tom. Fantastic guy. Went all through Vietnam War on a boat that was in charge of oil. It's an oil tanker, and the skipper was a drunk, and he had to drive the boat most of the time. He got home and he was a mess, and then he got into recovery, and then he became a counselor. God love him. And Tom told me that story the first time, and I've never been able to tell it as well as Tom tells it. The snake story. That's the classic snake story. But you get the drift. It's about don't pick up the bottle in the first place and think it's not going to hurt you. Just don't pick it up. Just like don't pick up the poisonous snake. That's the idea of the story. And he said many a time that story kept him from grabbing the bottle. Okay, and there's just water in here, by the way, flavored water, just so you know. So Mary will testify, right, Mary? Come on, testify. Oh, she's going to sit there and laugh. Are you shaking her head? Yes. Okay, good. There you go. Nice little wifey. Okay. We won the award again today at the Boone County Senior Citizens Festival for being the youngest married couple. I mean, the least number of years. That's it, 3 years in a row now? Wow, it's amazing. Yeah, 3 years in July. Yeah. Seems like a lot less. Excuse me. I'm going to stop now while I'm ahead. Last week I did say something about Bill W. and Dr. Bob and this Carl Jung guy. And one of the things I want to tell you too, there was a Jesuit priest that read the first draft of Bill W.'s big book, right here, the big book, and he read the first draft, and he was handicapped, and he got on a train and rode over to Akron, Ohio, where Bill W. was, and they stayed up all night talking, and the Jesuit priest realized that Bill W. was using a lot of things that were parallel to the Jesuit spiritual exercises. And so they had a fantastic, fascinating conversation. The Jesuit, which is normal, tried to convert him to being Catholic, because Bill wasn't, but Bill said no. He said, I really can't afford to make this a connection to any particular religious group because it might cause problems. He said, but I really appreciate it, Father, that you came and that you helped, you were talking with me. And so that's the other thing last week. I was talking about the nun who snuck the alcoholics in between shifts at the hospital and then gave them a coin and said, this is if you can hold on to this coin and if you decide to drink, bring it back to me, and I'll punch you in the nose. I mean, I'll try to talk you out of it. So, that was part of that whole situation last week. But what I didn't get the chance to tell you is the whole thing. I did read some of Carl Jung's letter, but basically what happened. I did a summary of it for you. In January 23rd of 1961, Bill W. is telling Carl Jung, you had a hand in founding AA. This is when he wrote the letter, in January 23rd, 1961. You had a hand in founding AA. In 1930, Roland H., you told him he was hopeless. His only hope was to become part of a spiritual or religious experience. And you placed yourself he said, place yourself in a religious atmosphere and hope for the best. Well, Dr. Daniel Shoemaker and the Oxford group, which was lively between 1932 and 1934, had already sobered up many alcoholics. And Bill's friend, a guy named Ebby, nickname was Ebby or Edwin T., was helped by the Oxford group. Bill W. was threatened with commitment, and Dr. Silkworth said there was two parts of what Bill had to do. That he was obsessed with alcohol, and there was a metabolism that he was allergic to alcohol. And he told Bill W., you were hopeless. And in November 1934, Bill W. was drinking, and Edwin visited him and he found Edwin in a state of release. So still struggling and drinking, Bill W. was still struggling. Edwin visited a second time and got more depressed. He got more depressed. He cried out, if there is a God, will he show himself? Will he show himself? And immediately there came an illumination of enormous impact. I was immediately free from alcohol. There came a vision of a society of alcoholics passing on the message one to another. Spiritual experiences and the skills of counseling. We of AA Fellowship are indebted to you, talking to Carl Jung, for all you have done to help us. So I wanted to kind of get a summary of that so you knew more about what transpired between Ebby and Bill W. and Dr. Silkworth and the people at the time. So I wanted to give you a little better view of that than what I did last time. Reading you 6 pages of stuff is not going to help you a lot. In fact, it's going to make you say, I'm not coming back to that thing. Okay, so what I want to talk about tonight is stages of change. Let's see, well, let me look at the, I don't think I have a packet right now. That's my problem. Hey, Bill, can I get a packet from you? I don't seem to have one. I don't have to have them all, but okay, thanks. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me check and see where we are on the packet. Okay. Well, let me save the window and the stages here for later. Let me say one thing about this, the front page of the packet. That's called a triptych. I know it sounds like something out of AAA, but it's not. It's an ancient Christian format where you put three paintings or photographs side by side, and it tells a story. And for me, this is a smaller version. They're hard to see, but the first of them is on the left side is a lake, a picture of a lake, and it's actually Bear Lake out in Utah, which I took a picture of when I was on a motorcycle trip years ago with 3 other priests. And we were called the Forefathers. Anyway, okay, little inside thing. And I designated that as lake addiction. People are drowning in there. Okay, that's the place where the tragedy is taking place. People are drowning. The next thing is the Tetons, a picture I took of the Tetons, and that is the mountain climb to recovery. Okay, so that's why I put that picture in there. And the very far slide on the far right is a seagull taken from a boat on an island near Greece. He was flying above the boat looking for food. And I call him Freebird. He's flying free of his addiction. He's now coasting on the winds, and he's free of anything holding him down. So you got lake addiction on the left, you got the mountain climb to recovery in the middle, and you got Freebird on the right. So that's my little, I had those things hanging in my office when I was doing counseling. And I would explain this at the beginning of every session. Now, I'm going to go quickly through this packet, at least part of it, because it's stuff you could read later. And I'm thinking, Bill, there are these same things included in the material in the website?
Yes, all
okay.
the materials on the website.
All of it's on there, okay. So if it says page 1, and that's in page 1 on the, okay, great, super. He's the man. So this basically, I was in charge of the intensive outpatient program at Claremont Recovery Center for 23 years of my 28 years in the field. My first 5 years were with Transitions Incorporated in Northern Kentucky, which main office used to be in, where was the main office? Oh, rats. We had locations in Dayton, Kentucky, Newport, at York Street, Dayton, Kentucky, near the Old Spears Hospital, York Street, 6th and York, Covington on Garrett Street, like 10th and Garrett, and also a location in Ashland, Kentucky. And I worked for almost every one of those locations except for Ashland, although I had visited that campus a few times. So anyway, so this is a summary of the main kind of work I did for the last 23 years in the field. And basically, this is a welcome letter to the client who's first coming into the group. The average stay of intensive outpatient. Intensive outpatients is what you go to before you go into residential treatment. You got your educational programs for people who have a first offense DUI that lasts maybe 9 weeks. A second DUI is going to get you an educational program for 52 weeks. If things continue to get worse or you have other offenses, you may end up in an intensive outpatient program that meets 3 times a week for 3 hours each time for a 6-week period. And then you step down to a 3 times a week for 2 days a week or 1 day a week. And then, kind of taper it down. So this is the welcome packet for intensive outpatient. And it's specifically designed for the Claremont Recovery, but hopefully it can be used for anybody that's in the field. And it just basically spells out what we hope will happen if you have a chronic condition that is harmful, dependency on a chemical substance that interferes with your daily life. See, if something's causing you problems, then it's a problem. If you're drinking and it's not causing you problems, then maybe it's not a problem. But the problems can be social, employment, psychological, and including emotional, physical, relationship-wise, financial. They can all different. If it's causing you a problem, then it's a problem. Legal, another category. Legal offenses kind of get in the way. So because your condition is chronic, you cannot be cured, but you can be treated successfully. It's a chemical dependency is a chronic, and I'm not talking about marijuana, chronic, permanent, progressive, treatable, and fatal disease. It's all those things. But if you got it, you have it for a lifetime. It's permanent. As I just said, that permanent. It's progressive. It gets progressively worse. It even gets progressively worse, as I said last week, even when you're not drinking. If you were to pick up where you're not drinking, say that you stopped drinking for 5 years, if you pick up drinking again, in a relatively short period of time, you're going to be where you would have been if you'd been drinking the whole time. When you start back, though, initially, it'll seem like you're starting over, but it'll rapidly move to a worse state than ever before. Progressive, it's highly treatable. However, some people ask about this, what are the stats for recovery? I asked this at a very high-level counseling meeting that was being done by a nationally known expert in the field, and the question was, well, what's the percentage of recovery? He said 1/3 recover, 1/3 die, and the other third are trying to figure out which group to join. That's hard. 1/3 recover, 1/3 die, the other third are trying to figure out which way to go. That's a tough one. That's a heartbreaker. It was really hard for me to hear that, and I'm sure for you tonight, those of you here and those at home, it's awfully hard to hear that now. But it's highly treatable, very much so. The objectives are twofold: to arrest your disease and help you recover your health. Rehabilitation, that is organizing a new way of life with new patterns of thinking and behaving. Your primary purpose is treatment. You got people that'll used to tell me in the field when I was there, my clients, I got to work. I said, yeah, but you also got to live, and you want to survive. So you're really going to have to do what it takes to get this working. And you didn't get where you're at overnight, and you're not going to get out of where you are overnight without hard work. And you get free of mood-altering drugs, and there's more of those out there than you think. But we're talking about, we'll get into that later. Your unreserved cooperation is essential to your recovery. Mere compliance, going through the motions without personal motivation, will leave you sick. You will find that the atmosphere is friendly and the staff understanding of your disease and problem. You will gain much support from other clients and will be able to contribute much toward their recovery also. One of the things about putting people in a group of about 10 and a counselor with them was you try to find the people that already have some of that, are already into recovery personally and believe in it and want it, and have them talk to the ones that aren't there yet and say, this is what changed my mind. It might have been my children. One guy said something to Daddy one time that, Daddy, are you gonna keep drinking, or something about I forget exactly what it was now, but she had this question for her daddy, are you gonna go out drinking again, or something like that, and it just broke his heart. And he'd been so desperate, he was robbing her piggy bank to get money to go out and drink. He was also robbing his in-laws, people will take things, they're desperate enough, they'll take stuff. And it's really embarrassing. But you hear people talking about the things they've done and the things they've changed is very impressive and remarkable. So the people in the program, as I told you before, this group was a group that was meeting on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from 9 to noon for 6 to 8 weeks. And we were told that the first part of this is education, and I'm going to explain that to you as we look through the packet. Then there's going to be group therapy where you sit as a group, 3 hours for 3 days a week for 3 hours each time. There are breaks. Sometimes I gave 2 breaks, 1 each hour, or 1 larger break in the middle. I let them choose, which I think helped them make them feel better. Then there's individual counseling where you talk to people one-on-one. Try to schedule that before the group meeting or afterwards if you're able. And then family counseling. We try to insist on people going to family counseling to really make that an important part of the recovery. Pardon me. In fact, I think the 2 things that give a person an advantage over anybody else in the treatment program are these 2: a spiritual connection, a basic faith element, and family involvement. Those 2 elements will give a person an advantage over anybody else that isn't doing those 2 things in recovery: a spiritual connection and a family connection in the program. And I think I'd be doing people a disservice if I didn't tell them that. Let's suppose I'm a football coach for the Bengals, and I say, well, there's 2 things, there's 2 secrets I know I learned from Pittsburgh when I was coaching up there that I'm not going to tell you about. And they say, well, why not? Well, you want to do that, right? The coach is going to choke me until I tell him, So anyway, yeah, you deserve to know what the best approaches are. And then there's also the final element is Alcoholics Anonymous. Narcotics Anonymous. Some of these are like Rational Recovery, Alcoholics Victorious, Rational Recovery, RU, I'm not sure what that one stands for. It's probably, Rational Recovery is more of a intellectual, philosophical, psychological approach. Excuse me. Alcoholics Victorious is a parish, church-based recovery program. And the Narcotics Anonymous, NA, is meant for drug addicts, and AA is mainly meant for alcoholics. And we encourage them to go to these support groups twice a week. And we required them to indicate when they checked in how many they've been to. Okay, let's turn over to the other. Any questions about that page? Okay, and I was reminded from last week that I need to repeat the question because the poor people at home didn't know what we were talking about if I didn't repeat the question. I didn't catch on to that till maybe halfway through the program last week, so I'm learning as I go. This one is the general client guidelines about missed appointments is number one. Number two, fees, prescription drugs. You can't have people in group taking prescription drugs that are similar to what they're trying to not use, like Ativan, Valium, Xanax, things like that. Those are the kind of things, those are tablet form alcohol basically, you know? So you want people in your group taking pills that are doing the same thing to them that alcohol would do. So you got to stay away from that stuff. And then relapses, if you have relapsed between that now and the previous meeting you were in, you're supposed to report that. So when was your last use date? If it changes, then you've got to report that your last use date changed. Okay, there are tox screens done. We take urine screens to see whether people are actually telling the truth about that they're clean. And sometimes that's important because people tell you straight up that they're clean, and then you take a tox screen and go, oh golly, I wonder how this got into your urine. And we had a couple come back and tell you about people willing to do almost anything to avoid problems. I had 2 samples in my 23 years with Claremont Recovery that came back non-human sample. So somebody was either chasing the dog around the front yard or milking the cat. I'm not sure what, but it came back as non-human sample. That's all I'm going to tell you. So that's how creative people can be. In fact, you can go right now, you could go to, I shouldn't tell this to people because they might do it, but you can go to, what's it, GNC, and they've got these kits. I think they're especially for truckers. And it's, I said, you got anything that you can help beat a tox screen with? And the guy says, oh, come on over here. He's got this glass case up on the wall. He says, well, there's the $35 kit, and there's the $50 kit. Which one do you want? He said, and they're manufacturer guaranteed. I said, well, who's the manufacturer? He says, I don't know, or something like that. Anyway, so what kind of guarantee good is that? If you know that not the guy in the store is going to guarantee it. So I look pretty burly. I kind of look like a trucker, so you probably believe me. You know, I'm a trucker. Anyway.
Jim, along those lines, Lebanon, the resource officers in public school remind the kids being in a car with drugs basically get flagged for taking drugs. A lot of kids, you know, drugs get hit or something like that. But when the dogs and the police come, they walk the parking lot, they go into the school, and they flag, and a dog can basically be in the parking lot and smell small thing of drugs, and they roar and laugh. You know, literally, you know,
Okay,
something, but basically.
so let me repeat this before I lose the whole thing. There's a school area, public school up in Lebanon area, where they have these drug sniffing dogs. Uh-oh, those dogs got a real reaction. Don't mention that again. Any of these animals. Okay, so they can tell if there's stuff in somebody's locker or in their book bag or what, from the parking lot. And if it's in your car, okay,
Very often, kids will say, well,
it's not my stuff.
It's not my stuff.
Yeah. But if you're in that group,
Untested for a month,
yeah, you're still liable because you're associated with it.
correct. They
Okay.
have a positive drug test basically with the dogs.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is, okay,
Ooh.
let's take you for a drug test.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So if they come up negative, they don't get as big a deal?
Then if they come up negative, they're safe.
Okay.
Positive.
Come up positive then?
fine.
Okay,
That's
right.
what they say. So,
See, that's the thing yeah, drug screens are what, there's an old saying about how do you know an alcoholic's lying? When their mouth's moving. So you have to, if you are trying to skate away from legal problems and the police and all that stuff and the legal system and sneak into work, and bring the stuff onto the job, you wouldn't believe I used to heard about people that we were out there by the Ford plant on Bower Road, we're out there on 32, and they said there were people that were sneaking stuff in there all the time in their thermos bottles. Now, don't go going after me now. If Bill wants to come up and sniff it, he can. But anyway, there was a guy, you talk about creative, he had a cooler of beer in the parking lot on a construction site. And he was working pretty high up. And he had some kind of a wraparound Coca-Cola wrapper. And he'd just go get a beer out of the cooler and take it right up on the job site with him. But it had a Coca-Cola wrapper around it. People use those for state parks too, because you're not supposed to be drinking in a state park. So anyway, you wouldn't believe how creative people are. I mean, I'm sure we could cure cancer if these people could put their minds to use on something really positive. Okay, let me see if I can cause a barrier. I thought it might help. Anyway, individual appointments. We ask people to come to those every 2 weeks or so, but say a person needs more help, maybe we see them once a week if we can fit them in. Self-help, we already talked about that. People need to go to AA. Treatment plans. This is where you draw up a plan with the client and they sign off on it. And they agree to come into the groups, taking the tox screens, doing their homework, which we're going to look at here soon, and all that, and participating in group, and going to meetings, going to AA and stuff like that. And they sign off on that. And so they know they get a copy, and I have a copy in the file. Family involvement, we ask them to have their family involved. Some treatment programs work on that by making sure if you don't have a family member come to the session or come to a family session while you're in treatment, then you don't get to visit with them. So it's pretty serious when it's residential. And then making progress toward recovery, that you're making, that you're responsible for progress toward abstinence along with the attitude and lifestyle changes that accommodate recovery. So we're looking for attitude changes, People come in there with a bad attitude and they stay that way. Sorry, we got to see changes. So there's 2 copies of this in here. One's for the client and one's for the file. So, that's why there's 2 copies. So you can turn to the next page, which would be page number 4. And that's 2 pages away. For those of you that are home, it's page 4 for 9/14/22. Addiction and over-the-counter meds. I'm not going to try to go too deep into this, but avoid any product that containing alcohol or PG, which is paregoric. That's an old term that it takes you, not only our more mature people in the audience would know what that's about. Anything that says it's going to help you sleep, wake up, or calm down, or make you lose weight is probably not a good thing for a person in recovery. Always read labels. Any questions, consult your pharmacist to be sure to tell them, him or her, of your addiction. And certainly if you're visiting a doctor, make sure you tell them that you're in recovery, because otherwise they might give you something, and you say, well, I can't get to sleep, and then they try to give you something that's a narcotic or some sort, and then you got a problem. So these are the things listed here below that are recommended over-the-counter products for recovering chemically dependent people. And so below that line, in the category of pain, allergy symptoms, nasal congestion, nasal decongestion, headache, sore throat, cough, diarrhea, and constipation. So those are the things that are permissible for a recovering person. but there are some things that you want to avoid. So those were carefully chosen. I don't think anything has changed yet, but that was a pretty fairly well researched list of the things that were safe. Okay, let's go to the next page. Keep moving on here, because you're not in treatment, you're just learning. And you can always look this stuff over more deeply at home, because this is yours to keep. Okay, and those of you at home got it in your records, hopefully. Okay, now I said that the people had homework. This is homework. This is the homework week for. This is the homework for week 1. You're going to be in group 6 weeks, basically. Unless you're really a slow learner, you might be in 7 or 8 weeks, or 8, depending if you're a slow learner. We've had a few of those. We've had some quick learners too, though. That's true. I remember that. Okay, so this is a worksheet on triggers. What are the things that set you off to wanting to drink or use? Okay, we look at work night before, in the AM when you get up. See, if you've been drinking up to late at night and then you sleep, some people get up middle of the night and drink because they're not making it through the night without having a sip. So some people might go up to go to the bathroom, but they're also going to go take a little sip while they're up. You got people at lunchtime, breaks, or after work. Again, people hide things at work, in lockers, lunch boxes, you name it. Season of the year. Do you drink more often, more in winter, spring, summer, or fall? Which is there a season when you tend to be more? Is winter is colder and you're inside a lot? Or what about the summer when you're out there fishing? And you know what the difference between a fishing trip and a drinking trip is? If there's more worms than alcohol, that's a fishing trip. If there's more alcohol than worms, that's a drinking trip with worms for a ride. Got that? There are some people, they take a worm, catch a fish, hang it on a pole, and then they're off to drinking. Heck with it. That's it. Fishing's over. Okay. Some hunting lodges are like that too, unfortunately, but that's dangerous. We don't want to go there. Okay. What days of the week? You get your people who are your weekend warriors that are mainly Friday and Saturday night is what they're looking forward to. Do you know what 420 is? Anybody know what 420 is? Let me explain it. It's 420 also has to do with the signal about marijuana. You're going to get ready to light up around 420. That's when you start geeking. And also 420, April the 20th is also a big day for smokers. Isn't it also something to do with Hitler? Hitler died on 420? His birthday, that's right, his birthday, okay. So it's some strange connections with that 420 thing. I don't want to get too far into that, but anyway. This is just stuff I hear about. I never experienced it. Anyway, so what days of the week are the worst? Then about sports, all the possibility of sports, bowling, darts, fishing. There's a lot of bowling leagues, and it's really drinking leagues with bowling balls and all that stuff. But anyway, softball, baseball, football, basketball, NASCAR, you name it. If it's a sport, people are drinking. And think of all those placards they got on them. Just think of the Reds, and the Bengals. All those placards that are on the side walls. I think ice skating is the only one that's safe from alcohol, isn't it? It's usually, huh? Oh, they have hot chocolate. Oh, and you can put something in there? Little Baileys? Oh, I've heard about that too. Yes. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. Okay, events, weddings, cookouts, Labor Day fireworks, family reunions, that's where the fights come from. Holidays, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas and New Year's, and then you can add any on the end of there. Family relationships, breakup of a relationship, divorce, death, serious illness, money problems, significant other, children, present relationship. Excuse me. Okay, friends, old high school friends, friends from the neighborhood, work associates, sports partners, etc. Projects, cutting the grass. I know a guy that had a lawnmower, and he had a swivel cup on it. You know they have swivel cups on a boat so you don't spill your drink, so it's anchored to something? He had a swivel cup on his lawnmower. He had a beer stuck in there so he could, You've seen the hats with the beer cans on either side and the hose that comes down? It's pretty wild. It's amazing stuff. painting. Painters get accused of having alcohol problems. They say, the rumor is that they're inhaling all those fumes all day. I think it's partly because you're self-employed. You can hire and fire you all you want. You can come late to work, you can leave early, you can take a long lunch, and you got nobody else to report to but yourself unless you're with a team. And if you're the boss, hey. But that painting seems to get a bad name. I don't understand exactly why, but working in the garage, working around the house, indoor home projects. Okay, and then feelings. Anger, sad, fear, doubt, worry, success, shame, guilt, stress, anxiety, physical pain, emotional pain, and halt B. Halt B is hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and I added my own board on there. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and bored. Those are a classic. I just call it halt B. AA apparently named it halt, but I added the B on the end because I think boredom can be a real trigger. I had nothing else to do, might as well drink, you know? Okay. All right, let's move along. The next sheet is on page 6, and this is week 2. That was week 1 of the program. This is the homework that's due in week 2. By the way, if there's somebody in your life that you think has a drinking problem, and there's a big argument about it, and they swear up and down they don't have one, challenge them to go. I said this last week, though. Challenge them to go to an assessment. And if they come back and the assessment says there's no problem, tell them you won't bother them again. You might even pay for the assessment just to get them to shut up or get you to shut up. Quit bothering them, you know? What the heck? Anyway, okay, here's a list of losses. The triggers to make you more aware of the things that might set you to drinking. The losses are to help you see what has gone away, what you've lost. And these can be quite painful. So we're talking about legal arrests, time in jail or prison, time on the shelf, which is not served yet in case you mess up. This is what the time is you're going to serve. Late to work or left early, days missed at work, job or jobs lost, missed promotions, lack of productivity, missed opportunities, quitting school. How many people never finished high school simply because they got into the partying scene and just it didn't become a priority? So one of our big things was trying to hook people up with, what's that alternative thing to high school? GED, thank you. Yeah, so that's a big thing when you're trying to help people get out of a rut. They've been disciplined at school, loss of respect, loss of trust, time away from partner, time away from children, embarrassment, guilt, shame, the reputation is harmed, hiding it from the family, hiding it from friends, no sober leisure activities. There are some people that the connection is the drinking. That's the only thing that connects them. You take that away, this is why people who have lost their driver's license have trouble getting to meetings because they no longer have a car. Their friends will take them if you're going drinking. If you got money and we're going drinking, sure, I'll pick you up. But if you want to be driven to a treatment center, I'm not taking you out there. You know, they might make me stay later, you know, or something. They might figure out I got a problem. I don't want to do that. So anyway, it's hard to get around if you are without a license, possibly without a car, and because if you can't drive it, you can't use it, and then trying to get around to meetings and stuff, to AA meetings, to the treatment sessions, that's tough. We even set up a bus situation down at the Eastgate Mall to try to help people get out to our place, and people even had trouble getting to Eastgate Mall sometimes. So, and it didn't go over that well. We had to stop it, unfortunately. We worked for years to get that working, and then it fell apart, sadly. Anyway, so losses you can think of yourself, out of touch with feelings. Chemicals bury feelings. The basic principle is that chemicals bury feelings. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. Fines, court costs, probation fees, attorney fees, towing fees, storage fees. If your car gets locked up in an impound lot, you got to pay the price for it. Interlock fees. This is the new thing they put on your car where you got to blow into this device to get the car started. As long as you're negative, no alcohol in your breath, they'll put those on your car sometimes to help you still be able to use it, go to work. Repair bills, restitution, increased insurance costs. A lot of people never thought of that. SR 22 bond, I think that's something in Ohio. Lost wages at work, cost of alternative transportation, assessment costs, tox screen fees, cost of treatment. Then you go to what did the alcohol cost you? And one guy said he drank a case of beer every week for 10 years. And he added that up, and that was a big number. We're talking thousands of dollars. And pot and opiates and other pills are not cheap either. So then you come up with the total. And we used to do this on the DUI program. We'd say, how many drinks did you have the night of the DUI? And then you go in, and how much did all this cost you? And then you divide the number of drinks you had into the total, and that's how much each drink actually cost you. You may only paid $1.25 or $2 for that beer, but because of what you lost, you paid $100 for each beer in the long run, which can shock you. Okay, the next thing is a first step, and the first step in AA is we have come to know that we are powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable. And the person is asked to look at the powerlessness and the unmanageability of the disease. And they go through a history. Number one is going through a history of their drinking pattern, drinking or drug. That's page 1 here. And oh no, that's number 1, but page 7 in the materials that we got on the scene. And it goes through and we turn over to page 8. That takes a lot to fill that out, but it does get to be revealing. Some people have to use extra paper to get that done. Page 8, they ask about how preoccupied they are, looking forward to, planning use, hiding use. Number 2, destructive behaviors, physical or emotional behaviors, things, harm that's happened. How did you attempt to control or stop your use? Ordinarily, if something's not out of control, you're not going to work at controlling it, right? I mentioned this last week. Have you ever tried to control your intake of green beans? Usually when you've had enough green beans, you know. I had some at the senior citizen picnic today. When I had enough, I had enough. Shut the lid, put it in a box. But with alcohol, some people, the sky's the limit. You know, it's whenever you run out. Yes, ma'am. The beautiful blonde lady in the 4th pew. That happens to be my wife.
On page 7, they talk about age. Isn't there some correlation to the intensity and the difficulty of if you start early?
Yes. Mary said, what about age? She's going back to page 7 where it mentions age, about the age of first use. And the younger you start, the worse it can be, yeah. I mentioned last week, I believe, and this is part of I didn't review it, so thank you for bringing that up. The younger you start becoming involved harmfully with substances, the faster the addiction comes on. It usually takes an adult 5 to 15 years to develop a full-blown addiction. I'm exaggerating to make a point. 5 to 15 months for a high school age person, 5 to 15 weeks for a grade school person. Again, it's an exaggeration to make a point. I'm simply trying to say the younger you become involved, the faster the addiction becomes present because the person's not completely developed yet. So that's why we try to tell people don't drink till you're 21. And if you've got a history on both sides of your family, you may be best off never drinking at all because you're walking into a fight that you don't want to do. Like you ask people that are smokers and you say, now that you've seen how hard it is to give up smoking, which is the worst addiction there is, everybody tells me, if you knew how hard it was to stop smoking, and you knew it now and you hadn't started yet, would you start? Interesting question. Yes, Mary?
And the other thing that you mentioned is that when they start using, they have a high, and they want to replicate that high, and how no matter what they use, how much they use, they never get the same high they got when they got their first high.
Yeah, the first intoxication or high, especially with the heavier drugs, is more pronounced, especially when they, if it's a pretty strong dose, it can be more impressive than anything they've ever experienced. They become invincible and godlike, but then the rebound is you're suicidal and depressed. And this is normal, but you spend the rest of your time every cell, every organ, every membrane in the body, every brain cell remembers that event and wants it back. And it will do anything to get it, and keeps saying, where's the stuff? You know, like Arby's used to say, where's the beef? This thing is saying, where's the drugs? Where's the alcohol? Where's the high? I want that back. I desperately want that back. Okay, so the first step, continuing. Thank you, Mary, for that question. Very good. Question 3 on page 8, attempt to control, or the loss of control. That's a very good sign of that there's a problem. Number 4, memory loss or blackouts. Blackout and passed out. I want to make a distinction between those two. Blacked out, passed out is you're on the chair, on the couch, on the floor, on the bed. You're asleep. You're just out. Blacked out is I could be teaching this class right now in a blackout and you'd never know it. Of course, I wouldn't remember any of this. I wouldn't remember who was here, what I said, what people were wearing or anything, where I sat, what's on the boards. But you wouldn't know I was messed up. The blackout is where the short-term memory, because of the chemical imbalance in the synapse between the short-term memory and the long-term memory, because of that imbalance, it's not able to report stuff to the long-term memory, and it's basically lost. Okay? You can't get it back. There's people who talk to me about grayouts, but I don't want to go there too much. A grayout's where somebody tells you what you said, and something might might come back a little bit, but it's just not. It could be just your mind filling in the gaps, attempting to fill the gaps, and because your mind is just craving to figure out what happened. Like when I talked about the blackout I had after surgery, when I had my carpal tunnel surgery on my left hand, and I went into a blackout after I talked to the surgeon in post-op, and from all the way from there to when I put my clothes on, took off the surgical garb, put on my clothes, got in the car, rode home with my wife, and got into bed, I have no memory of any of that. And that was a medically induced blackout. I'd never experienced that before, but I'm telling you, it was weird. Yeah, it was very strange. Have you?
Our family had, Nelson was a very active drinker. One of the things that he admitted to for years of drinking was the blackouts. He was a taxi.
Okay, so a friend of yours had been drinking a lot and finally admitted to you and your family that he had blackouts.
Blackouts. But he was a tax expert.
He was a tax expert.
Tax expert who would do people's taxes
He would do people's taxes under the influence?
under the influence.
Okay,
Typical self-employed person.
self-employed,
The boss.
just like a painter.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, he realized over time that he did not remember what he did, how he did it, and yet he did well doing the taxes.
But he didn't remember what he did and how he did it.
Days and weeks.
Days and weeks were in the blank.
Yeah.
And all he had to prove it was the stuff he wrote down. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's amazing. See, some of that's called, well, I'll get back to that later. We talk about state-dependent learning. That's a different aspect. I'll get back to that later. That's another whole aspect. I want to kind of zip through this first step because it's long and it's involved, and since you people are not recovering people and you've got the copy of it, I see no need for you to. But go to page 10 with me. This covers different areas in a person's life. It covers how has your life been emotionally unmanageable, spiritually unmanageable, financially unmanageable. What are the consequences, jail and stuff? What kind of standards and values you think you broke or socially unmanageable, number 12. 13, work unmanageability. How was your sex life unmanageable? In what ways were your thoughts and feelings about yourself, your self-esteem unmanageable? And then it says, number 16 is the most important question on the whole survey. Can you use alcohol and drugs safely? That's the key question. For a genuine alcoholic or drug addict, the answer is no, I can't. But you wouldn't believe the number of people who have written other answers on that. Then number 17 seals the deal. Do you feel that you were an alcoholic or chemically dependent person? Why or why not? And probably those answers, why and why not, are maybe more important than anything else in the previous 15 questions. So that's where you find out where the person is. And they may have to do the first step over again because they didn't get the answer right at the end. I don't give it away. I let them figure it out the hard way. Okay. One of the things, this is next page is page 11 in the treatment program or packet. It's called an affirmations list. And these are, I think they're in alphabetical order. Anyway, a list of positive terms that a person could identify about themselves. And what you're asked to do is, I ask my clients to do is take this home, and I said, make 2 other copies of it, and get 2 other people in your home to fill this out, and not to let you see it. And then you fill it out yourself, and bring all 3 copies back to group. Then they keep all 3 copies hidden, and then as a group, we tell the person sitting in the seat, let's suppose we picked Mona. We said, hey, Mona, or Benita, and said, okay, everybody put on the board here, we're going to put on the board all the positive things we know about Mona and Benita. We fill the board up, writing on the carpet, we get it all over the place. So now we got that list up on the board. Then people look at they look at the list that the 2 people from their family put up, and we put those on the board to see if there's anything duplicates. Some are duplicates, so we put a 1 behind it, and others we write new ones in, and then we look at their list. So what we get is, you get to see what the people in the group you've been with for so many weeks think about you, positively, but don't put any negative stuff up. What your 2 family members think, and then what you think about yourself. And what you end up with is a board full of positive stuff about yourself. Because one of the things I found among people who are trying to recover is they don't think very highly of themselves. They have very poor self-esteem. They consider themselves to be a piece of dirt. They don't deserve to be alive. They feel guilty as heck. They're ashamed of themselves. And in some cases, I don't feel like I deserve to be alive. Just really terrible. And so this is and I'd say to someone, I said, you ever seen a board full of nice stuff about yourself? They go, no, never. I said, well, you might want to take a picture of it. So some people with their cameras, they'll take a picture of the board. So they have to write it all down. Now that we got these cameras, I just go click. So it's a nice thing. It's a great little exercise. Okay. Everybody cool? Okay. Week number 5, page 12, for the people at home. This is what's called the goodbye letter to your drug or drug of choice, including alcohol. And it may include the following: how their relationship started and how you felt in the beginning, how their relationship progressed, the good and bad times, how things got gradually worse and what the damage to you was, when and how you realized it was over, why you never wanted to be together again, final goodbye, good riddance, go to you-know-where, you dirty son of a gun, you whatever. And you may use much strong language as you want. I give permission. And then on one side of the page at least, many times people go over to the other side. Let me see where that binder is. No, it's not in the binder. I'm going to read you an example of one of those letters, I think. Yeah, here we go. Here's one from December the 18th, 2013. If I got a good one, I asked him if I could keep it. So this one says, goodbye to my enemy. Goodbye, drugs. You pretended to be my best friend. You gave me a false sense of euphoria, confidence, pleasure, and happiness, and took all of my pain away. You stuffed my feelings away, way down so I did not have to deal with them. You helped me sleep better, stay aware better, eat better, and even have better relations. Now, let us discuss the things I will not miss about you. No more screaming matches with my boyfriend. No more throwing up. No more stealing. No more long nights.
making my whole family worry if I am still alive, and no shallow breathing, no more junkies raiding my drawers, no more using my home for to crash, no more paychecks disappearing into the thin air, no more web of lies, no more trails of tears from my daughter, and deep regression to the point of cold sweats, no more getting fired from jobs, no more jail cells, no more disappearing or days or weeks at a time, no more looking around for your friends, seeing only a headstone and grace. I can't make that one out. No more hospital beds, no more seeing your own brother pawning hundreds of dollars worth of jewelry from your own mother. No more anger from my son because I didn't have time to play with him. No more separations between my true love. No more guilt and shame. No more killing my brain. No more crawling in my skin. No more feeling like a failure. No more sticking needles in my arms. No more wearing long sleeve shirts when I don't have. No more stomach cramps. No more deadly scares. No more poisoning my liver. No more slamming doors. No more arms and nose sores. What the blank did I need you for? You will latch your evil claws onto me no more. With God in my heart, my kids on my mind, and peace in my soul, I am so done with you. You piece of blank, deadbeat thing, you will never see me, touch me, bribe me, use me, never again. I have found so many things better than you in my life, and that is my higher power. That's one gutsy young lady. Now that was 2013. Want to hear another one? Let's go one more. This is a classic. It might be. I had to get rid of the names on these, so it looks like it's guys writing. That looked like gals writing, but okay. Dear alcohol, we need to talk now. These are exclamation points. I decided that it would be in my best interest to break up with you. Beginning today, exclamation point underlined. Sure, we had our fun, our good times. We went to concerts together. You met me after work. We went camping together. Remember how I carried you into the woods, all 24 cans of you? You were heavier than expected, and your strap cut into the palm of my hand. It was a long walk. I needed you with me. My dear friend, you were always with me. We met new people. We went on trips and vacations together. I'll send you the photos of us. You will like them. Most of them are of me holding you in the air or close to my body. Some are us together, just sitting together at the bar. You changed. You became more demanding. You wanted my company every day, and you knew I had things to do, like go to work. I really feel you need to get a job. I can no longer afford to take you everywhere. You are expensive, and I can't see why I should spend my hard-earned money on you anymore. Lastly, you are full of blank. I have listened to you and taken your advice. I have followed your ideas and get into trouble every time. I thought you were my friend when all along you only wanted to bring me down to your level, the gutter. I think that was a guy. Anyway, yeah, sounds pretty guy to me. Anyway, those are just some of the letters that were written, and some of the good ones I wanted to hold on to. I got a few other ones, but that's enough of that for now. The last page, or last week 6, was to try to get to the roots of the disease. And that's why on this one, there's a picture of a tree. And then in the thing from at home, it's on, this is page, what? Let me see, it's kind of blanked here. Page 13. Yeah, I think it's page 13, Bill? Right. And it's got a tree and the ground and then roots underneath it. The reason for that is I believe that this disease has roots. And I think that by the time you get through 6 weeks of treatment, or if it's 5 or 7 or 8, whatever it takes, to get to the point where you're stepping down, you're going to have a better insight into what's behind it. That there's more behind it than just I'd like to drink. And so we ask people to see, what do they think it is underground? You got the tree above, but you also got one heck of a root system below there, right? And saying that, well, how can we name that? You know, the addiction is above ground. What's the whole thing below ground going on? And some of the topics are anger, abuse, a summary of a booklet, dysfunctional family, grief and loss, relationships, stress. This person might want to do a mini lead. A lead in AA is you tell a person where you were, where you are now, and how you got there. So where I was is my battle with the disease. Where I am now, I'm in recovery. And how did I get there? How did I do it? That's the most important part. That's a mini lead. Communication could be the problem. Summary of a movie. I've had people summarize movies back in the day when there were movies about recovery and addiction. Boundaries can be a problem. Or a story of a famous person in recovery that you admire. One guy I remember, some of you might remember Aerosmith, the group Aerosmith. There was a 400-page book called The Rise and Fall of Aerosmith. And they had gone through all kinds, they started out pretty big name, and then they kind of fell off the grid and went down pretty far. And, yeah, I don't know, pretty risky stuff going on. And then they started climbing up the other side. And so that they wrote a book, I don't know if it's autobiographical or somebody else, famous writer did it for him, but this one kid made a book report on a 400-page book on Aerosmith. So that was pretty amazing what that guy did, what the kid did. I wish I kept it. Yeah. So, all right. That's the whole thing with at least the first 13 pages of this booklet. I'm going to hold off on 14 for now because I wanted to talk about, well, maybe that's part of it. Let me see here. Yes? Mm-hmm.
Okay, going back to that tree, they give the causes of their addictions, but they could also use that tree for the cause of their having fixed their addictions. What about you? What about you?
Say that again. They could use the tree not just for talking about what's the roots of it, but what else?
The roots of it that caused the problem.
Yeah.
But what about using the roots of what is helping you get past the problem?
Well, the idea that I came up with was to basically say, this is the roots behind let's see, the tree's the addiction. That's my image. You may want to change it, but we'll have to talk about that later maybe. But my idea was we want to get at what's underground. We want to get at what's behind this, because you could take the alcohol away, but if you don't deal with the situation that was promoting it, many people that have drinking and alcohol problems were abused. It could have been physical, sexual, emotional abuse, and that was the heart of the whole thing. And until you face those things in counseling, there's going to be the chances are they could trade that addiction for another, and they'd switch off to some other kind of thing. So what you don't want to have is a person just trading one addiction for another. That's why I think on the list out there in the lobby, we're talking about gambling and shopping and I don't know, golly, there's all kinds of stuff that you can, spending money, whatever, if you got it. I mean, just all kinds of things that you can try to put your trust in. And what recovery says, you're going to put your trust in a higher power. The man behind me here, as AA says, as we understand him to be, is the goal. So maybe I can talk it over with you later and figure out what you're saying, because I'm a little confused about it. And I don't want to take our last few minutes to try to straighten that out. Is that okay? You okay with that? Mona, do you understand what she was asking? Did you? Okay. Oh, the above ground could be the positive part? Okay. 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 Yeah, if you want to, I guess that's an interesting suggestion that Mary made, my sweet wife, is what about using the part above ground to talk about the positive stuff that's come out since I've dealt with the negative stuff. So yeah, I like that. I just so locked into my image of it, I wasn't open to the new idea yet. Still working on it. Okay. I want to end up with this little thing that I have on the board here, and I hope the people at home have had a chance to copy this. Again, it's called Finished Files. It's in your handout at the beginning. Finished files are the result of years of scientific study combined with the experiences of many years. Now, everybody here in church, I think, has one, right? Okay. Now, here's how we do this. You got to follow the directions. And some people think this is just an exercise in following directions. It's not. There's a purpose to it. When we're done, you'll get the idea. It's something sneaky that Jim does that I learned from some other people that are sneakier than me. Okay, so I want you to just read over those. In our thing, there's only 4 lines. At yours at home, there's probably more like, 5 lines there? Yeah, anyway, read over those 5 lines first. Just read them over. Okay, now, okay, everybody read them? Everybody? Okay. Now, the challenge is I want you to count the number of times the letter F appears. I don't want you to circle it or underline it. Count the number of times the letter F appears on that sheet and put the answer in the upper right-hand corner. You don't want to write it anywhere else on the page. Count the number of times the letter F, F as in Frank, appears on this page and write the number in the upper right-hand corner, and don't cheat, Bill. Bill knows the answer, I think. But count the number of times. Do not circle. Do not underline. Just put the number in the upper right-hand corner of the page and turn it over. Okay. Turn it over to the blank side when you're done. No cheating, Benita. She's not. Okay. If you haven't finished, raise your hand. So everybody's done? Okay. Now turn it back over. And how many people, I'm going to ask you for what number you put. How many people put the number 1? Raise your hand. Not that you're going to, but I have to ask for all the numbers. How many put the number 2? No one. Okay, nobody put 1 or 2. I'm thinking nobody at home did either. Okay. How many put the number 3? 1, 2, 2 people. Okay. Put the number 3 in the corner. Okay. How many people put the number 4 in the corner? 1. Okay. Okay. How many people put the number 5 in the corner? Mary. Wow. Sneaky. Okay. And how many people put the number 6 in the corner? 1. Okay. Now, here's the thing. A lot of you are thinking to put something below 6 are thinking, did he get a different page than I got? How does he know more than I know? And how does he and Mary got 2 of their higher numbers and are sitting together? Maybe they're, whispering back and forth. Neither one of them is known for their great hearing, so they probably didn't tell each other. Both were wearing hearing aids. So anyway, but okay. So what this is okay. Are anybody out here wondering how come your number was so low? Huh? Kind of wondering about? I'm going to give you a chance. Look at it again. Look again. Those of you that didn't get 6 or 5, didn't get 6. Look around again. You found some? What did your number change to? 6. Okay, we got 2 6s now. Bill?
Same thing.
I got another 6 there? Okay. All right. It's sneaky. Yes. Okay. For those of you that didn't find it, I'm going to give you a hint. It's the smallest letter on the page, smallest word on the page, begins with an O. Oh. Okay, so, right, because when you read it, it sounds like of, O-V. You don't hear the F. Okay, finished files is clear, scientific is clear, but the three ofs are hidden because they sound like O-V, of. Now, what you've experienced is denial. That doesn't mean you're in denial. It means you've experienced denial. You tried to, does anybody here didn't try? How many of you didn't try? Everybody tried, okay. Put up your hand if you didn't try. So everybody wanted to find them, just like maybe everybody wants to find a disease. But for some reason, they're prevented in finding it. That's denial. No matter how hard you try, you can't seem to find it. Now, the reason I had you write the number in the upper right corner is you can tear that off of there and try this on somebody at home. And have some fun. Okay? Does that make sense? That's why you can tear that off and then, or erase it if you use a pencil, and you can have some fun with somebody. Does that make sense? The finished files? That's what this is about. It's an experience of denial. It's not that you're in denial, but it's an, you know, the educators say if you can tell somebody about something, they're going to retain a small percent of it. If you experience it, you're going to retain more of it. And that's why the experience of this, to help it to become more obvious. Now, I was going to try to cover the Johari window tonight, but we are seriously running out of time, which is okay. I certainly kept myself entertained. I hope you all were educated. But we only got a couple minutes left. Is there anybody that might have a final question that you want to ask about tonight before we go? Next week, we're going to cover some more ground. We're going to do the Johari window, feelings wells. I already did the snake story. We're going to talk about different kinds of meetings AA has, chemical dependency. Wait a minute here. Okay, dysfunctional families, relationships, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is the risk, love, hurt cycle, which I consider to be one of my favorite things to talk about. And I learned about it in high school, but I'll never forget it because it really hit me hard. So I really do appreciate all of you coming out tonight. I appreciate all of you at home stopping in and visiting. And for those of you that were with us tonight, thank you. Those of you that are going to visit the site at another time or the new website, you're welcome to come in and review the first week and also the second week, which is today. And hopefully join us again for a week from today, which is our third week, September the 21st. So we've had the 7th, 14th, and 21st. So thank you so much. I thank you, Father Kevin, for allowing me to use the church here and the air conditioning and the lights and everything else that it takes to and Deacon Larry for doing the sound and the video. Thank you so much for the setup you did. He's just an awesome person. And Bill, thank you so much for helping me with the copies and bringing the board with you. Traveling all the way from the northwest side of town or whatever, on the other end of the circle. And thank you all for coming tonight. And let's close with a prayer. Okay. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for the educational materials that I was able to gather over my years of work in the field. I ask your blessing upon all those who have been working in the field now and have worked in it. I ask your blessing on all the clients I've had pass through my hands, pass through my groups. I thank you for what they taught me and what I've been able to share, what I've learned from other counselors and other trainers. I thank you especially for your presence here. 2 or more gathered in your name. We're working at trying to help others, help ourselves, whatever we're trying to do. Those in our lives that we know are suffering. Watch over those who are trying to recover, who are already recovered, and those who need to recover. We ask you, Lord, to touch them and bring them home, and so that their loved ones don't worry about them, and that they can become and be healed, delivered, and set free. And we ask this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Thanks again for coming. Appreciate it. And I want you to feel bad for the deacons and the priests. This thing, imagine having this underneath your clothing and having to look down here and see whether the light's on or not. Now I have a total new respect for the deacons and the priests that have to play with this thing. Okay, I'm turning it off now.